Hi everyone, welcome to our YouTube channel Online Study for You, one step solution for all your placement needs. I hope you all are doing well. Well, first of all, if you are new to this channel or if you haven't subscribed this channel till now, make sure to subscribe. This channel will be very helpful for you for your placement preparation. So do subscribe this channel. Also turn on the bell icon so that you don't miss any important update or opportunity from the channel itself. Well, in this video, we are going to do the discussion of, or basically sort of complete analysis of the programming logic question that has been asked in TCS and QT from 12 to 16 September. So basically, I have chosen some questions that will be helpful for you and will be sort of giving you idea that what kind of questions are getting asked in TCS. So make sure to watch the complete video. It's not just I have taken all the questions, just some important questions I have taken to give you sort of idea with proper explanation. I'm going to discuss all these questions. So do watch the complete video. And if you have already given the exam, so you can watch the video to check if this video has your question so that you can just match your answer, whether you have done it correct or not. So make sure to watch the complete video. Do share this video among your friends as well so that even they can know that what sort of questions are getting asked in the TCS. So let's get started. Hey all, have you heard about a jobathon from Geeks for Geeks? Well, let me tell you, it is a 2-hour long hiring challenge for freshers who are interested in a job opportunity at one or more of the following companies. So these are the companies mentioned. So first of all, what you have to do is you have to register for this contest, for this jobathon. And after this, you have to go through the job description given above for the companies like as Walkover, Aptunix, OLIPS. So you have to go through the job description given above and register for one or more companies. So you can do the registration for one or more companies according to your skill set basically. And also there's a note that your profile will be considered for a company if you have registered for it. So make a note that after doing the registration for the contest, you have to do the registration for the company as well. Well, let me tell you about sort of pattern of the test. So here you will be having 2 DSA coding problems of 100 marks, 5 MCQ on programming logic of 25 marks, 5 MCQ on logical reasoning 25 marks, 5 MCQ on quantitative aptitude 25 marks. So this is what you are going to have. Also, only individual participant is allowed in this jobathon. Interview shortlisting will be done by specific companies based on their own criteria. Language supported for the DSA problems are C++, Java, Python, and each submission will be tested based on a critical test data. Well, some other important points is also mentioned, like is there will be 5% penalty for each wrong submission, and other things are also mentioned. So make sure to go through it completely and do the registration. This is a wonderful opportunity for the freshers who are looking for job opportunities, right? So do the registration. Happy learning, guys. Hope you have found this useful. Well, before moving ahead for solving the question, let me tell you the important topics from which TCS is generally asking the questions. So I've come to know about these topics after doing the proper analysis of questions that has been asked in the question papers in the TCS and QT from 12 to 17 September, right? So first of all, we'll be discussing about the important topics, and then further in the video, we'll be solving some questions as well. So make sure to be with us till the end of the video. Well, let's understand the important topics. So first of all, if you're talking about the output based questions, so generally they are asking questions based on bitwise operator, bitwise operators, right? Now in bitwise operator, you know that what we have: XOR operator, left shift, right shift, right? So these sort of options, these sort of questions they are asking on the basis of these bitwise operators, on bitwise AND, right? From logical operator as well, they're asking like is using the logical AND, logical OR, not, right? So obviously some conceptual based questions has been involved here. Further in the video, if you will go through the questions as well, you will come to know that the questions are easy, but somewhere in the questions there is some involvement of some sort of concept. So if you're aware of the concept, definitely you'll be able to solve the question. But if somewhere you are not clear with the concept, you can make the mistake, right? So in the bitwise operators, they are asking the questions. Already we have done so many questions based on bitwise operators, so I'm hoping that if you have come across any such question based on bitwise operator, you must have done it right. Okay, and general looping based questions, they are asking looping based question, right? From the technical MCQs, I'm telling that part. General looping based questions are there, that they are asking that simply a loop is there, right? Some algorithm based question, like it's not a very hard algorithm, it's just a factorial algorithm is there and somewhere some part is missing, right? In the factorial, if some part is missing, or in the Fibonacci, if some part is missing. So you have to determine from the given options that what should be filled and that in that blank part, right? So these sort of normal algorithmic question. It's not very hard. Also, now, as if I already told you, that TCS started asking question from software engineering subject as well. So in this exam itself, like for 2022 exam itself also, TCS has asked the question from software engineering, like it's about the life cycle related question, or the popular models that we have: waterfall model, V model, agile model, testing from load testing, regression testing, system testing. So the questions MCQ based on these concepts has been asked in the technical MCQ. So if you are having a sort of basic idea about the subject, then also you'll be able to solve the question. But it's important to have some sort of idea, because TCS is repeatedly asking questions from this subject, that is software engineering, right? Well, generally TCS doesn't ask questions from graph and all, but I've come across one question from graph as well. Again, that was a very basic question. So it's important that it's not needed that you should have a thorough understanding of each and every data structure, especially when it comes about graph. But some basic knowledge, if you are having, you will be able to solve. Again, the most favorite topic is that traversal. So this time as well, the questions were asked from the traversal. Further in the video, we'll be solving question based on these topics that I'm discussing as of now. So in the traversal, you know that we have pre-order traversal, post-order traversal, in-order traversal. So the questions are similar, like as if pre-order traversal is given to you, you have to determine the post-order traversal, right? In the stack, their favorite topic is the conversion from the stack part, infix to postfix, right? Postfix to prefix. So this time as well, they are asking questions on these topics in on these, like infix to postfix conversion. You have to do, like, infix expression is given, you have to determine that what will be the postfix of the same. Postfix is given, you have to determine the prefix of the same. So we have already done, right? We have already done these sort of question and already told you that they are the important questions and must to do topics basically. Even now, if you are having the exam in upcoming days, so you can go through this topic just once, because they are must to do topics. TCS is asking the question on these topics, and it's not just for TCS, other companies also do ask question, you know, output based question, and these sort of questions are basic in other companies exam as well. So it will be helpful for you for other companies exam as well. So it's not just you are having the plot of TCS in your mind. Do watch the complete video even if you have completed your TCS exam, so that in other companies exam that will be helpful, right? So traversal, from traversal they're asking the question basic normal looping based questions, they are asking conceptual question is there, question based on logical operator, although I've already mentioned here, let me write here itself, right? Question based on logical operator is there. So normal question is there. Till now I haven't come across any such question which I think that you'll not be able to do. Yes, some questions from software engineering are sort of depth. So maybe a case if you are not having sort of depth knowledge about the subject, you won't be able to do, but it's okay if you're 1 or 2 MCQ, if you're not able to complete, that's totally okay. And even in the case of this software engineering related question, you'll be having MCQ, right? And there is no negative marking in the thesis, so you can just go for any random option. It's not you are leaving blank or so. So go for any random option even if you are not clear, because again there is no negative marking, so maybe by luck you are getting the right answer. So that can be a case. Okay, the problem is where when you have to directly write the answer. There are some questions, some output based questions you will be getting in the exam where you have to directly write the answer in a box. In the box given, you have to write the answer. So there it is important that you should be having the proper understanding of the concept, then only you'll be able to write the correct answer. Because in this sort of question you are not having any option, so your answer should be correct. Well, these questions are also very easy. They're asking easy questions only, so again that won't be a problem for you, I guess. So do watch the complete video. Let's discuss the questions now. Hope the topics are clear for you. So here's our first question. Well, as you can see, so we are having here two variables x and y of integer type which are initialized by 1. So here's an if condition mentioned, if y less than 0. So what is the value of y? That is 1. So 1 is not less than 0. So in this if part itself, we are having this if and this else statement. So when even if this if is not true, then obviously these two statements is also not be executed, right? Because what is the value of y? That is 1. So 1 is not less than 0. Okay, so at the last you can see we are simply printing what? We are simply printing the value of x. So what will be printed? What is the value of x? A value of x is what? 1 itself, right? So 1 will be printed, right? So option A will be the correct answer for this question. Let's move ahead. So here's the next question. Again, this is also an output based question. So we are having an integer, a variable length here, underscore length, and we are having a string variable underscore sentence here. Now we are having, basically we are setting sentence equal to mobile, right? Now we are having length equal to this variable equal to the length of our sentence. So what is the length of our sentence variable? It is having mobile, right? So what is the length? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 will be stored in our variable length. Now what we are doing is we are simply printing underscore length, that is the value stored in this variable, XOR with 1. You can see they have clearly specified also that it is what? Bitwise XOR operator, right? So 6 XOR 1, that is what we are having. What is the, if you will convert this 6 into bits, what is the value? 110, right? We are having 110, and for 1 we are having just 1 itself. So for XOR, I've already told you, if the operands are similar, result will be what? 0. And if the operands are different, result will be what? 1. So here you can see 0, 1 different. So 1 will be having, here also 1, here also 1. 1, 1, 1, this is the binary form of which particular decimal value? This is the binary form of 7, right? So 7 will be having, so option B will be the correct answer for our question. Let's see our next question now. So here's our next question. What we are having here is just we are having a simple digit variable here which has been initialized with 8. Now we are simply printing digit, and that is what? Right shift by 1. Is it right shift or left shift? It is left shift, right? It is left shift, and this is right shift. So we are having digit left shift by 1. So when you are having A left shift by B, what is the formula? Right, the formula is A into 2 raised to B. And when we are having A right shift by B, what is the formula? A divided by 2 raised to B. So as of now, we are having the left shift, so we'll be using that formula only. What is the value of digit? 8. So 8 left shift by 1. So use that formula. So 8 into 2 raised to 1 will be having 16, right? So 16 will be printed. What will be the correct answer? Option C will be the correct answer for this question. Let's move to the next question. So here's our next question. Okay, let's start with the main function. So in the main function, we are having two variables, A and B, which has been initialized with 10. Now we are simply calling a function 1, to which we are passing the values A and B, right? The values of variable A and B. So this will be having 10 and this will be having 10. Now what we are having is, this is basically returning an integer value, that is A minus A equal B. So this is what we are doing is comparison. A value is what? 10, B value is what? 10 equal 10, right? So this is a Boolean expression that is going to give you either 0 or 1 according to the expression that we are having. So as of now, 10 equal 10, that is true. So you will be having 1 from this expression. So let's put this here. A value is what? 10. 10 minus 1, you will be having 9. So 9 will be returned. 9 will be returned, and hence 9 will be printed here. So option B will be the correct option for this particular question. Let's see our next question now. So here's our next question. We are having a variable A which has been initialized with 0, another variable B that has been initialized with 5. Now is a very important concept involved. If you are not clear about this concept, then perhaps 90% of you are going to do the mistake. Well, what is the case with OR operator is that if the first operand itself is resulting into true, so it won't be evaluating the further expression, right? Because overall, if any one part, if any of the operand is true in case of, is resulting in true in case of or the whole expression is going to be true itself, right? So that's why it won't be evaluating further. That is the case with the case of OR operator. But if let's suppose the first operand that we are having is resulting into false, that it will be checking the further operands as well to make sure that the next one can make the expression true or not, right? So that's the case. Well, here you can see we are having B equal to 5s or minus a. So you know that what integer value represents false? 0. Except 0, other values represents what? True only. It is just 0 that is going to represent false. So 5 here, what it will be representing? True only. So that's why we won't be moving further in this expression. We won't be moving further for this operands a and all, because this first operand itself is giving you what? True. So that's why there will be no change in the value of a. While most of you must be thinking that now a value will be decremented, but that is not the case, because it is not even evaluated, right? So that's what the concept that I want to mention here. Okay, so what will be the value first of all is stored in B? That will be 1 itself, because obviously this first operand itself is resulting into true. So 1 will be stored in B, and so 1 you'll be having, and A they are printing. So A will remain as it is, that is 0 itself. So 1 0 will be the correct answer for this question. If you have understood the concept here from this question before before checking the solution for this particular question, let me know your output. So be honest, comment your answer in the comment section, and then check your selection. Maybe it is wrong or what, no worries, no one is going to judge you here. It's just I want to check whether you understood what I told you here or not. So comment your answer first, and then check whether you have done it correct or not. Well, let's understand this as well. The same concept is going to be applied here also. So here we are having a variable a that has been initialized with 0, b that has been initialized with 5, c that has been initialized with 3, and the variable sum. So we are doing sum equal to a plus plus. Now a plus plus is what? A plus plus, this is what? Post increment or pre increment? That is post increment, right? We are doing post increment. So what is the concept in case of post increment? First use, then change. And if it was pre increment, then the concept must be change then use. But as of now this is post, so we are going to have what? Use then change. So it means a value will be taken as it is, that is 0, and then it will be changed. So here this 0 will be representing what? False. That's why you have to move further. If in case of 0 it was just 1 or something, so we are not going to move further in the expression, because now overall expression is going to be true itself. But as of now this is 0. After using this 0, a value is going to be now what? 1. We'll be moving further. B plus plus, so B is what? 5 itself. So although 5 will be used, but after using, B value will be updated to 6. Now this 5 is representing what? True itself, right? So we won't be moving further, we won't be evaluating further, because now the complete expression is going to be what? True itself, or we can say 1 itself, right? Because as of now you have to represent this in integer format. So what is the value that sum will be holding? 1. Then this is space, then a value will be printed. So what is the value of a? 1 will be printed. Then value of b, what it has happened? It is 6. C value, now here you can do the mistake, because this part hasn't been evaluated. So C value will remain as it is, that is 3 itself. So 1163 will be the correct answer for this question. Hope you have understood and hope you have found the same answer too. Well, let's see our next question now. Okay, so here's our next question. Let's understand this. So basically these are the variables that we are having. A equal to 5, b equal to 0, c equal to 15, d equal to 20, and e equal to 0, right? Now simply here we are doing that while a less than b. So what is the value of a? 5, right? And b is 0. So 5 less than 0, no, the condition is untrue. So we are not going to move inside this while loop. Inside this while loop we were having this singular statement, but as of now the condition itself is false, so we are not even going to move inside this while loop. So you can see at the last we are simply printing e and v value. So value will remain as it is, right? E value is what? 0, and v value is also 0. So 0 0 0 0, that is option B will be the correct answer for this question. 0 0. Now what you are understanding by these questions, just the simple concepts are there, basic knowledge is being implemented. So the questions are not very tough. That is what I'm getting from the analysis of this question. The questions are not very tough, they are easy only. Just somewhere some conceptual questions are there, otherwise the questions are normal, easy. You can see this one question, just have a look on this. Is it difficult? Do you think so? No, it's really easy. Yes. In the case of or question, the or operator question that we discussed previously, that was a sort of conceptual question and most of you can do the mistake. But again, that was not a difficult question. It's just a conceptual based question. If you are clear about the concept, again, that is also easy one, right? So yeah, so that is what I'm getting. The questions that thesis is asking is easy one. So now let's see our next question. Okay, so infix to postfix, I have many times told you that it is very, very important. TCS do ask question for infix to postfix conversion, postfix to prefix, prefix to infix, and all these sort of conversion. Well, let's have a look on this question as of now. So basically what they are asking is that what will be the output of below infix code to postfix. So infix expression is given to you. You have to convert this in the postfix form. First of all, you should be having the idea that what is basically postfix. In the postfix, what you will be having is that first operand will come and then operator will come, right? That will be having a postfix. Always remember, you have to solve this expression according to the BODMAS rule. So first of all, the main the priority should be given to what? Brackets. So first of all, we are going to solve brackets. So let me write h divided by I plus j into, if you will solve the brackets, I've told you what is going to happen when this is getting solved. First you are going to write the operands, that is KL, then operator, that is multiplication. So this part is solved. Now you have to check for the operators having the highest precedence. So here division and multiplication both are having the same precedence, right? And you know that addition is having the less precedence when compared to division and multiplication. Now what should be solved first? So the operator that is at the left side. When two operands are equal, then when two operators are having the same precedence, then you have to solve the operator which is having situated basically at the left side. So first of all, we'll be solving that part. So hi division plus j into KL multiplication. Now you know that plus is there and multiplication is there. So obviously multiplication will be solved. So hi division plus j KL multiplication, right? Okay, that is done. Now just this addition is remaining. So hi j k l multiplication plus. So now let's see which option is having that particular option. So you can see this one, option C is the correct one. You can see we are having hi, okay, division I forgot to mention, yeah, hi division jkl multiplication plus. So option C will be the correct answer. Let's see our next question now. So how many iterations are required for searching the element 36 using binary search for the below set? So you can see we can implement binary search here, because you can see the list given, or basically the array given, is what? In the sorted order. So now what binary search do is it basically finds the middle element, right? So first of all, we'll be finding the middle. So let's count the number of elements that we are having as of now here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 elements we are having. So what will be the middle one? You know that indexing starts from 0, right? So okay, let me do one thing. If you are getting sort of confused, let me take this in the form of array. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 0 plus 15 by 2, that is generally what we do, right? So, okay, then this middle element is going to be that one, which will be located at the 7th index. So in that case also we are having what? 36, right? And we are having what? In the 7th index, we are having 36. So you can see just in the first iteration itself, we got our element. We got the element that we are looking for. We are looking for what? We are looking for 36. So in the first iteration itself, we got 36. So how many iteration? Just one iteration is needed. Hope that is clear to you. There is no such confusion. Well, let's move to our next question. Okay, so here's a coding problem. Well, let's understand this properly. That what the problem says. Party has been organized on cruise. The party is organized for a limited time T. The number of guests entering EI and leaving LI. The party at every hour is represented as elements of the array. The task is to find maximum number of guests present on the cruise at any given instance within T hours. So 5 is basically denoting the number of hours. Basically, what is happening is a party is getting organized for a limited time. For example, in the input 5 is given, so for 5 hours a party is getting organized. Now there are a number of guests, some guests are entering, some guests are leaving the party. So there is 2 arrays which are keeping track of the guests that are entering in the party, and another array which is keeping track of the number of guests leaving the party, right? So you have to determine the instance at any given instance within these TRs when the maximum number of guests are present on the cruise. So that is our task basically. Let's understand it properly with the help of this example. So these are the number of hours given. Then we are having what? This is the entering array consisting of 7, 0, 5, 1, 3, right? And this is the leaving array. So 1, 2, 1, 3, 4. Right. So now for this case, we are getting 8. Let's understand how we are getting 8. We are getting 8. That is the maximum number of guests on cruise at an instance. So let's see. For the first hour, let me write here itself. What was the array? 7, 0, 5, 1, 3. So that is, I guess, entering array, and next one, that is the leaving array. 1, 2, 1, 3, 4. So for the first hour, you can see 7 guests are entering and 1 is leaving the party. So overall guests that are present is 7 minus 1, that is 6. So now there are 6 guests on the cruise basically. In the second hour, you can see 0 guests are entering, that is obviously no one is entering, and 2 guests are leaving. So 6 minus 2, 6 were already present, now 2 has left, so 2 have left, so 6 minus 2, you will be getting 4. In the third hour, we are having what? 5 guests are entering and 1 is leaving. So we'll be having overall 4 plus 5 minus 1, that is 8 guests in the third hour. In the fourth hour, we are having 1 guest is entering and 3 are leaving. So 8 plus 1 minus 3, because 1 is entering and 3 are leaving. We'll be having 6. In the fifth hour, 3 are entering and 4 are leaving. So overall, we'll be having 5. Now, at which instance we are having the maximum guest? You can see in the third hour, we are having the maximum guests, which are nothing but 8. That's why we are getting the 8 as the output, right? So that's the complete question. Well, what you can do is in that question, again, that's a very easy question. First of all, take the input. See, in the TCS, it's not just they are going to take the input for you. You have to do everything by yourself. You have to take the input, right? So you'll be taking the TRs and the entering array elements and the leaving array elements as input. Next, what you can do is you can take a variable. You know that what we are doing, one variable is keeping track of the element that is present on the cruise, right? That is for 6 were there, then 4, then 8, then 6 and 5. And another variable should be here that is keeping track of the maximum elements, or basically I should say maximum guests that you have seen by now, right? So this is how we can approach this problem. Let me show you the code itself. Let me directly jump to the coding platform and let me show you the code itself to give you a proper idea that what is actually I'm talking about. So let's have a look. So here you can see we have taken an integer variable t, 2 integer arrays e and l. So first of all, we have taken t as input and then e and l array elements as input, right? So I know that input part will be done by you easily. So let me sort of have a discussion about the logic part. So we are having a variable s to keep track of the guests that we are having on the cruise, and another variable max to keep track of the maximum guests that you have seen by now or for at any particular instance. So now we'll be having a for loop for int I equal to 0, I less than t. T is basically the hours, right? It's important that within these hours itself, you have to determine the maximum guest at any particular instance. So you know that when guests are entering and then leaving. So for example, if you are having at first hour 7 guests are entering and 1 is leaving. So that's why what we are doing is add EI and then subtract the element from LI. So for example, S is what as of now 0. So 0 plus 7 will be giving me what 7. But as if 1 guest is leaving, so that is what I'll be having 0 plus 1, 7 minus 1, 6. So overall 6 guests are there at this ith instance. Also, you have to check that if S at any particular instance is greater than that of max, so you have to put S value into max, right? So that is what we are doing continuously, and obviously the maximum value will be stored in this max variable. So after coming out of this loop, whatever the maximum number of guests will be, that will be stored in our max variable. So simply you can see at the last, we are just simply printing max in as the output. Let me show you the code by running itself. So let's run this first. So you can see we are getting 8 as the output, right? So hope that the logic and the question that we discuss is clear to you. So let's see the further question. So here's our next coding question, that at a fun fair, a street vendor is selling different colors of balloons. He sells n number of different color of balloons. The task is to find the color odd of the balloon which is present odd number of times in the bunch of balloons. So basically some balloons are here. You have to determine the color of that balloon which is present in the odd number of amount. Also, a note is given that if there is more than one color which is odd in number, you have to print the first color that you have seen in the array which is present odd number of times is displayed. So the color of the balloons can all be either uppercase or lowercase in the array if all the inputs are even in number. So see, if maybe a case that all the colors will be either in uppercase or all the colors will be in lowercase. So you have to keep a track of that. Also, if all the inputs are even in number, you have to display the message that all are even. For example, let's understand the same with the help of an example. So example 1, we are having value of n is given 7. It means there are 7 balloons and the color of each of the balloon is given in the form of an character array, that is R, G, B, G, Y, Y. So you can see green, there are 2 green balloons, 2 blue balloon, 2 yellow balloons, 1 red balloon. So this is odd. This is odd in amount, right? This is odd in number basically, right? So that's why in the output you can see we are getting R. So you can see the question is pretty clear itself. So hope you have understood that what is the question is basically trying to say. Now for this question, what we can do is, so you can see what we have done here is, first of all, we have taken the number of balloons as input. Then we have taken a character array of size n that will be storing our n balloons, right? So here we have taken the input, the balloons as input from the user. Now we are taking 2 array because it is clearly specified in the question that may be a case that all the balloons that are given are either in the uppercase or all the balloons are in the lowercase. So basically we are taking 2 arrays, 2 integer array, lower and upper, and you know that maximum 26 alphabetical characters we are going to have. Initially we have initialized all the elements that is present in this array as 0 itself. So what we are going to do basically is we are going to count the number of balloons that we can have, right? So you know that it is represented by alphabets. For example, we are having a balloon A, B, B, C, C, right? So how you will count that A has been occurred once? So what you can do is you can take the help of ASCII value here. So in that case, what we'll be doing is simply you can see, first of all, we'll be taking a loop for int I equal to 0, I less than n. N is here what? The number of balloons that we are having. So simply what we are doing is we are taking the ARR of I, that is as of now, if we are on the first element, that is A itself. So A minus A. A value is what? What is the ASCII value associated with this small a? 97. 97 minus 97 will be giving you 0. And there what we are doing is plus plus. It means we are incrementing the value of index 0. We are incrementing the value of index 0. Because ARR of I is giving you what character A, that is again 97. 97 minus 97, you will be having 0. So we can write here what? Lower 0 plus plus. Lower 0 is as of now what? 0 itself, because you know we have done the initialization of the value as of now by 0. So we are incrementing the value there. It means that now you have seen this A once. Okay, that what it means. Hope you must be getting my point. Then we are having B. So what is the value associated with B? 98. 98 minus 97, you will be having 1. So we are doing lower 1 plus plus. It means at the index 1 we are incrementing it. So again for index 1 the value will be 1. Again you are seeing this B. So again here what you will be having this index 1 itself, and you are saying that whatever the value is there at the index 1, what is the value now? B. Now it is 1, right? Because you have already seen this B. So it is 1. Again you have seen this now. So again if you will be incrementing, so now value will be what? 2. Okay, and same thing is going to be for C as well. Now if instead of this lowercase, if we are having uppercase like this, R, G, G, R, so the same case is going to happen with the uppercase itself. That's why we have taken this loop, that if our character is in the range of uppercase. So here either you can write like this character A and character Z, or you can simply specify the ASCII value itself. So what is the ASCII value of capital A? That is 65. What is the ASCII value of capital Z? Please comment for the ASCII value of the capital Z, right? So what we are doing here is, again, we are keeping track of the characters that you have seen. The same thing that we are doing here in case of lowercase array, basically. Now, so this here we have done the counting. Now what we are doing in this loop, so simply we are checking that if our character is in the range of this, is in this uppercase range. So you have to check that if for any value of this upper array, if it is odd. So how you can determine this? By taking the mod with 2. If by taking the mod with 2 you are getting 1, so what you can conclude that this particular character has occurred odd number of times. So we are storing this character. You can see this is cat ch we have taken. So in this ch we are storing this ARR of I, and to make a note of that yes, we have got the element which is or basically we have got the balloon which has occurred odd number of times. We are taking a variable, flag variable, to which we are making 1 here. You can see initially I have initialized this with 0, but as if now if I got the balloon which has occurred odd number of times, so I'm making it as 1, and I'm just breaking the loop because it was clearly specified in the question. Even if further as well there are some balloons which has occurred odd number of times, but I don't care because in the question it is clearly specified you have to print the balloon that is first occurred odd number of times. So I have got that first balloon, so I'll be breaking the loop. If same thing here, same thing here we have done. If in the case our balloons which are balloon array that is given, that is having the characters in lowercase. Similar thing we are doing here. We are just simply checking if the balloons we are having has occurred odd number of times. So simply we are storing the character basically balloon to this ch variable and making our flag as 1 to denote that yes, we have got the balloon that has occurred odd number of times, and including this break statement. Now at the last we are simply checking if flag, it means we have found a balloon that has occurred odd number of times. So if this is so, we are simply printing the ch is what? The character variable that is having our balloon that has occurred odd number of times. But if the flag hasn't become true, or basically if flag hasn't become 1, it means all the balloons has occurred even number. It means we are having the even number of balloons. So if that is the case, it was clearly specified in the question, you have to simply print all are even, right? Let me show you this so that if there is any confusion in your mind, that would be clear. So let's run this first. Okay, let's suppose we are having 5 balloons, R, G, G, B, B, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 5 are done. So you can see we are getting R as the output because R is the balloon that has occurred odd number of time. If you are facing any problem in understanding that how this counting is happening, so what you can do is you can simply print this. So as of now, I'll be taking the lowercase one. So I'll be putting that single loop only. If you want, you can do the same with uppercase also. So see out lower of I, and this is space, and I'm adding this handle as well for ending the line. Let me run it again. So let's suppose we are having 5 balloons B. So you can see okay, so here if you want to check R, should be 26 so that we can check for all the characters count, right? So 5 R G G B B. Okay, so you can see A hasn't been occurred. So for A we are having 0. B has occurred twice, so we are having 2. For G we are having 2 because G has occurred twice, and you can see here this R has occurred once. So for this we are having 1, right? So that's what we are doing in this particular loop, where we are checking from ARR of I, it means R itself. So the count for R is what? Here in the lower part, the count for R is what? 1, right? The count for R is what? 1 itself. As you can see, R minus A, when you'll be doing, you'll be getting the index for R itself, and we are simply doing mod 2. So that is going to give you what the value there. What is the value? 1. 1 mod 2 is going to give you what? 1 itself, because 1 is what? Odd, right? So that's why we are having R as the output. Let's try for other inputs as well. 6, let's take. So T, T, G, G, B, B. So you can see we're getting all are even. So that is how it is working. Hope the code part is clear to you. Let's see the further question. This was also one question that was given, that in order traversal is given, pre-order traversal is given, you have to determine the post-order traversal. Now, one thing is that generally in-order traversal won't be given to you, because what we know is that in-order traversal is sorted in order. But what you can see here is that is not sorted. Now, again, you don't have to apply too much brain of yours here. Whatever is given in the question, you have to follow the same. As if this is not sorted, so you have to follow this only. You don't have to, again, too much questioning yourself that okay, this should be sorted, why it is not sorted. Just what is given in the question, follow that. So first of all, we'll be building the tree for pre-order. What is the sequence for pre-order? That is root, left, right. Now this sequence basically shows the precedence. So first of all, the priority will be given to root, then to the left, and then to the right child, right? So in that case, so what will be the root? 6 is the root. So let's build the tree. Then we are having 7. So from the in order, you can check 7 is where? You can see 7 is in the left of 6. So let's make it 9. Now you can see 9 is where? 9 is in the left of 7. So 9. Then 10. You can see again 10 is in the left of 6, but to the right of 7. So 10. Then we have 8. Now you can see 8 is in the right of 6. So that's our tree. This is our tree. Now you have to do the post-order traversal. So what is the sequence for post-order traversal? Left, right, root. Left, right, root. First of all, left, left, left. So this is the leftmost element. So we'll be having 9. Then, you know, now you can go 7, 10. So first of all, priority will be given to the right child. So 10. Then 7. Now we have 6 or 8. You know that priority, right child is having the highest priority than that of root. So first of all, 8, then 6. So 9, 10, 7, 8, 6. That would be the correct post-order sequence for this given pre-order and in-order traversal, right? So this is it for this video. Hope you have found this video useful. These were the sort of questions or sort of analysis for you. So if you have liked the video, make sure to hit the like button. If you have any feedback, make sure to drop the same in the comment section. And if you want us to make more such videos for you, let us know in the comment section itself. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Keep learning, keep preparing. All the best to everyone.